BMW's second generation M2 proves that the Munich marque can still make accessible, thrilling performance models that prioritise a uniquely involving driving experience. It's unashamedly extrovert, politically incorrect and very fast. Choose one and in 50 years' time show your grandkids what they're missing.
The switch to the cluster platform used by larger BMWs meant that pretty much all of the engineering here could be borrowed from the M3 and the M4 models. Now, the downside of using a big car chassis comes with the inevitable increase in weight, of course, but the engineers are adamant that the advantages of that outweigh the disadvantages. It really comes down to the kind of M2 that you want. BMW freely admits that this model's predecessor was a bit more playful. You can read as looser in the rear end for that. This one's grown up a bit, although it's still rear driven and it can still drift and do all that tyre smoking stuff. Plus, it'll be faster in lap time. Not least because it's more powerful. The S58 3-litre straight-six engine's 460 horsepower with 550 newton meters of torque is 90 horsepower more than that of the previous M2 competition and M2 CS models. That means 62 takes just 4.1 seconds with the 8-speed 3-setting paddle shift automatic transmission, or 4.3 seconds with the manual stick shift that BMW's M division fought to retain with this car. Top speed, that's usually 155 mph, unless you pay extra for the M racetrack pack, which raises the speed limit to 177 miles an hour. So you can control all that grunt. There's an active M differential allowing up to 100% of torque to be transferred to either of the rear wheels. And in addition, unlike any other M2 to date, other than the old CS, there's adaptive damping. That's along with punchy 6-piston brakes and a 10-step M traction control system. Track fiends even get an M drift analyzer, which rates the standard of their smoky slides. You do have to pay for your pleasures, of course. For the automatic M2 that most will want, BMW quotes a combined cycle fuel figure of up to 28.2 miles per gallon and a best CO2 return of 227 grams per kilometre. There's nothing subtle about the wild, angular way this G87 Series M2 now looks, which you might like after the slightly subtler approach of the previous generation F87 Series model. BMW says its designs are edging closer to the style of its race cars, and this one's certainly got a degree of DTM to it. For sure, on first acquaintance, you'll be left in no doubt that this M2 means business, and its swollen wheel arches, its deep bumpers and quad tailpipes are quite enough to evoke quiet respect from those who know what they're looking at. Only this coupe body shape will be offered. Time to take a look at the interior. Behind the wheel, the intent is a little more seriously expressed than with the exterior, but it's equally focused and perhaps appropriately given those new CLAR underpinnings, it's now quite M4-like. If you're graduating up from an ordinary 2 Series coupe, the key M2 differentiating features lie with these red steering wheel drive setup tabs and these carbon fibre trim paddle shifters. Plus there are M2 door sill plates and smart tricolour M Power colouring on the door cards, which looks brilliant when it's illuminated at night. If you've got this auto version, this little gear stick has an integrated button for the drive logic system that alters shift timings, and nearby on the centre console are further switches for My Mode drive settings, setup info and for the M exhaust. Otherwise, to be honest, it's not that much different to what you get in the lesser M240i xDrive model, which you might find disappointing given that this M2 costs over 30% more. The only way you can really make the cabin of this car feel truly M2 bespoke is to pay the vast amount extra that the brand wants for its track-style M carbon bucket seats, which save 11 kilos of weight but aren't that comfortable to slip in and out of day to day and have bolsters that really get in the way of clutch operation if you opt for the manual gearbox version. If you're graduating onto this car from the previous F87 generation M2, the main thing you'll notice as an improvement is the standardized live cockpit professional screen tech here, which has been embellished with bespoke graphics for this model. They look particularly impressive on engine startup. 12.3-inch monitor replaces the previous model's analog dials in the instrument cluster here, and a vastly bigger 14.9-inch center dash iDrive infotainment display is now much better integrated into the center of the fascia. What else might you need to know? Well, the redesigned sport seats are much improved, and an optional head-up display is new to this model line too. Your over-the-shoulder view is as slightly restricted as it always is on a coupe, but there's a whole bank of extra tech to help you slot into spaces, and plenty of storage room in the now more spacious cabin. Right, time to take a look in the rear. Once inside, there's far more room than you'd have a right to expect from anything calling itself a coupe. Well, a two-door one anyway. Headroom here would obviously be better if the ceiling height was the same as it is in the front. But even so, most adults below 6 foot in height will fit in fine, and there's room for your elbows thanks to these scalloped out side panels. BMW obviously thinks that real people are going to sit back here regularly because it's rather curiously included 3-zone climate control, which means you get these digital temperature controls beneath the twin central vents. Finally, let's take a look in the boot. Now, BMW hasn't bothered with pointless electrical operation for this lid, and it rises to reveal a 390 litre capacity, which is the same as that of the previous generation model. Instead of the optional ski hatch that was provided on the previous generation model, there's a more flexible 40-20-40 split for the rear backrest, so long items like skis can be pushed forward into the cabin between a couple of rear-seated occupants. Lots of ways then that you can practically justify what is essentially, let's face it, a deliciously selfish sports car. As one writer pointed out, if M3 or M4 models resemble hunting rifles in their approach to delivering powerful performance, then this car's attitude is more akin to that of a sawn-off shotgun. It might not be pretty, but it's pretty darn effective, and something you mess with at your peril. Enjoy it while you can.